So without further ado, Janae, tell us something. Like, who are you? What should the people know that don't know you?
I would definitely say that I'm someone who, at this point in my life, I'm definitely searching for who God created me to be. And I'm finding that everything that I'm doing with my creativity is literally what He wanted me to do. And I have time in my life right now where I'm able to actually focus on that, and it's just really beautiful because I feel like a lot of things that I've been doing have been a testament to not only like my discipline and my obedience to me searching for who I am through God, but also just staying 10 toes down on like, really just my creativity and like what gifts and talents that I have.
Yeah, so you speak about talents and gifts that you have. Like, tell us something. Like what do you do? What is your what are your passions?
I would say definitely creating things that people don't typically see or experience every day. I'm really big on experiences. If it's even food or just watching something, I want that experience to be amazing. I want to have like a happy dance. So I definitely am like an experience curator, if you kind of will. Like, that's something I like to do. I also like producing, which is something that I've done in the past a little bit, but not necessarily took it as far as I've taken it recently. I'm a writer. I love writing. Writing has always been something that has been part of who I am since I was younger. Like, for example, my great aunt would she lives in North Carolina, and she would always like send me letters, and like we would be like pen pals. So that kind of like started me with the whole writing journey. And then once I like started going to school, elementary school specifically, we had like these like books that we could submit poems to, and short stories. So I would submit them, and they would actually get published into the book. So
That's fine.
So those little moments led me to creating Real and Unexpected, which is my newsletter.
Check this out, by the way. It's coming out.
Yes.
So I have a question. So I just wanted to piggyback off of something that you said earlier. It sounds like you have a lot of faith, you know what I'm saying? Especially, in your religion and everything like that. When did that start, or how did that flourish or blossom into who you are now?
I would say, one, I've always been a believer in Jesus Christ. And I think for me, it was more of, okay, I know I'm a believer, but then are these really my beliefs? Mm-hmm. Like, what is it about Jesus Christ is in alignment with me? So last year specifically, around March, I was like, you know what? Things are just starting to feel like really foggy. I had like no real sense of like direction. And I needed something to just take me out of my element and like kind of just like lay it on the table and be like, you know what, you got to like strip yourself of like what you know, who you know, what you've been doing, how you've been doing it. And I would say once I decided to just kind of focus on God and literally let Him lead me, that ultimately catapulted a lot of like my thought process in terms of how I was living my life. And so then I went through a pruning stage where like things were being stripped from me, where, they always say once you start praying to God, like, to remove you from certain things and spaces and people that don't align with you, that will happen. And you have to be okay with that. And so like my faith really helped me see that not only was I like doing certain things that wasn't in alignment, but they weren't in alignment with Him and what He had intended for me. And so my faith ultimately got me to a point where I would say fast forward to this year, where I was able to take a break and focus on being creative.
No, that's tough. And that's actually dope because as a creative, I never used that word before, pruning, but I understand what you're saying because at that period of your life, what happens is that the people that you may have grew up with, or the thing that you do on a normal basis, you no longer do. So you have to like unlearn to relearn, and I think that's a pivotal step in any creative's road to success. It's like you have to unlearn a lot of things that you've learned over the years because it's not serving your purpose. And then you have to relearn, so especially at the age that we're at, sometimes that could be tough, You know, they say trying to learn a new language at, you know, when you're older is harder, you know, because to retain things is harder. But, you know, going on that path and going on that journey is very pivotal. And I knew it was pivotal for you. So did that lead you to your show? Or?
Yeah, so with Unexpected Love, well, which show? Well, okay, because I created, so I'll backtrack. So Dustin and I, we created Unexpected Love, but then I also have Real Unexpected. So that started out as a newsletter last year. However, I didn't intend for it to just be a newsletter. Like, I definitely plan to create video content. So recently I've started like with that, like creating like video content where I'm doing interviews that align with like newsletters that I'm writing. But in terms of Real Unexpected, prior to all of this happening, it really started from my first trip to Thailand when I was 25. That was a birthday trip for myself. And it was an idea that when we travel as humans, a lot of the times, especially like in our culture, like, you know, it's like, oh, like what outfits are we going to wear? But I've never been that person. Like, outfits to me was never really my thing because I went to private school. So I didn't really care about fashion like that.
Yeah.
However, when I look at traveling, I like to look at it from the experience perspective. I like to look at it from the human interaction perspective. So with that, I was like, you know what? I think there's a show that needs to be created that amplifies not only the experience, but also the human interaction, but how does it impact you as a person for your mental well-being and your creativity? So when I went to Thailand, there were just so many different things that I was able to experience. I was able to learn. I was able to see more of what I can be if I was in a different environment, not necessarily moving to like another country or moving to another state. It was more so like, okay, if I were to do this full time, what would this look like for me? Like, as the host, like, am I going to be able to be the one to host things? And anyone who knows me, I'm super particular. If you ask me about a show, I will give you the full rundown of the show. I'll give you like how I would change the show, what I would remove from the show. I'm just that kind of person. So when I was on the trip, we were doing different things and I was like, I think I could really host a show for real. And ultimately, as time went on, because that was like, 7 years ago, there were certain things that I was doing in between. So the idea of the show was in the back of my mind. However, I wasn't in the space to create the show. And then also it just seemed so far-fetched. And then also it just didn't seem like a realistic idea for me at the time. However, I've always was in this kind of space. I was always into theater because I was in theater in high school. I took acting lessons on the weekends. So I knew I wanted to be behind a camera and in front of a camera, but in what capacity, I just didn't know. And so now fast forward, not only do I have Real Unexpected as a newsletter, I've also created like the foundational documents for a show. I've submitted to a development plan competition to get the show actually developed.
How'd that go?
It's actually, I'm still waiting, but I have faith that God is going to allow that plan to come into fruition because a lot of what has been happening and a lot of my experiences has led me to seeing that there's just different things that I've done, whether it was career or even helping Dustin and his brother Den with content creation, how I'm able to not only create something, but see it on paper, organize it in a way where it can be like a foundational piece of art. And then seeing it from like behind the lens and saying, okay, I would do this way, that way, that way. So I had to do a lot of different things to get to this point. And that's what made me feel comfortable enough to actually submit the treatment deck and to actually go forth with it. When I tell you, Dustin and I, we both submitted for the same competition, and the end date and the time was June 30th, 11:59 p.m. Do you know when I submitted mine? Well, you want to know when I submitted mine?
11:59.
Yeah.
June 3rd.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It literally, the last minute, I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. And I was like, God, like, if it's your will, like, it'll be done. And I was like, I got it down to the wire, and he was like, all right, I submitted it, and now I'm just waiting. So I just feel like there's just so much of my story that I'm so excited to share, which is why creating the newsletter Real and Unexpected is kind of like the precursor, or like just like the
appetizer.
Yeah, the appetizer for Real and Unexpected Travels.
Got you.